Hey there, tubers. I wanted to make a video today on the ignition switch and its relation to the glow plugs in this Bobcat tractor. What you've got here is a 5-position ignition switch, and if you turn it back, it goes into a spring-loaded manual glow plug setting. And what that does is when you hold this back, which you'd have to by hand because it's spring loaded, turns the glow plugs on manually, and it will start the glow plug timer, and if you hold it long enough, eventually the light on the dash will go out to tell you that they've reached their cycle limit, at which time if you take your hand off, it springs back to the stop position. Now from there, you've got your accessory position, which the only thing it does is turns the radio on. So it is literally only for your accessories. The next position is the on position. At that point, your accessories are on, and then it engages the electronics in the tractor. So your display will light up. It'll go through its little cycle, and heater, blower, all that stuff will come on. It also initiates the auto glow plug relay, which it will determine what the water temperature is in the block and decide how long to cycle the glow plugs for. So when you come up into this position and leave it, it will cycle the glow plugs. The light will come on the dash, and for a determined period of time the glow plugs will stay on and then eventually shut off. Now you can go past this into the start cycle, which is the final position here, and start the engine at any time. When it's cold out, you can completely bypass the glow plugs, go right to start, and if the tractor starts, great. If it doesn't, then you need to glow plug it. I also want to add that at any point you can turn this to the auto position, get the glow plug light turning on, glow plug started, and if you're for some reason want to start the tractor before the cycle ends, you can just turn it to the start position and start the tractor. And when you do that, there's an interrupt on the glow plugs, so you're not running the starter and the glow plugs at the same time, which you wouldn't want to do because the glow plugs do pull a lot of juice, and so does the starter. So when that interrupt kicks in, it allows all the battery power to go to the starter. But that is a spring-loaded position also, so when you do hit the starter, obviously you let off like any automobile, and it comes back into the on position. Now if it's cold enough out, even though you've bypassed the glow plugs, it'll still come back to that position, at which point the relays and the computer will determine if the glow plugs need to run. And if it decides they do need to run, even though the engine's running, the glow plugs will also be running. But because the engine started, you will not get the light on the dash. Now I've had quite a few different diesel pickups with glow plugs. I had an older one that every time you turn the key on, the glow plugs came on. There was no sensor to determine what the engine or engine water temperature was at it just automatically turned the glow plugs on every time you turn the key on. So it could be middle of summer and you just got done driving it, shut it off, turn it right back on, and your glow plugs would come back on and run. But with that truck, it went through glow plugs quite often. You know, I've got a newer diesel pickup that is exactly like this tractor. It determines the engine water temp and then determines whether it wants to run the glow plugs or not. And that gives you a lot longer life cycle on your glow plugs. Now these things, the glow plugs run between 14 and 1500 degrees, so they get very hot very quickly. And the more you run them, the quicker they're going to wear out. Now I've seen guys where they'll cycle the glow plugs. As soon as the light goes out, they'll turn the key back off, turn it right back on, and cycle them again. Well, what you're doing is you're wearing those glow plugs out prematurely. Every time you shut the key off and turn it back on, the computer and the relays go through their cycle and determine what the water temperature is. So if it's a cold engine and you cycle it once and it determines, well, we need to run for the full 15 seconds that's allowed because it's so cold, you're running that glow plug at 14 or 1500 degrees for 15 seconds. You shut the key off and turn it back on, you're cycling it again for another 15 seconds because the water temperature hasn't changed, only your cylinder temperature has. So it's going to run for another 15 seconds. So in essence, you run that glow plug for 30 seconds at that 14 or 1500 degrees, and you're more than likely going to either melt the tip off or just burn the plug itself out. So there is a reason that they only run it for a certain period of time on the timer. Now, I've also seen guys that run it back here in the manual position till the light goes out, then they turn it to the auto position and let it cycle again. Well, you're doing the same thing. You're running those glow plugs for a lot longer than they're designed to run for. And it might work great for, first handful or couple dozen times that you try it. But eventually you're going to burn those plugs out, and they're either not going to work at all or they're going to work improperly. So I recommend, just turn it to the on position, letting it do its cycle, and then starting the tractor. Now if the tractor doesn't start, then I turn it back to the stop and I just wait a little bit. Make sure that those glow plugs cool down. Now they're going to cool down fairly quick if it's that cold out, and if you did crank the engine, some fuel did get into the cylinder and probably got sprayed on those glow plugs and have cooled them down quite a bit, but they're still not back down to zero. So I wait a little bit, then cycle it again. That way I do the best I can for extending the life of those glow plugs. Now if I understand the system here properly, it only will cycle at the max for 15 seconds. Now depending on what the water temperature is in the block, it could be less than that by quite a bit. If I read it right, above 140 degrees Fahrenheit on the block water temp, the glow plugs don't come on at all. So if you're just below that, the glow plugs might only come on for a second. But it's all predetermined and varies on the engine water temperature. Also, if you do have a block heater, which I do have on this tractor, if you do plug the block heater in and let the engine block warm up, that will shorten the length of time that your glow plugs run for. So what I'll do now is I'll go around and get in on the other side here, and I'll put a timer on the dash, and I'll turn the key to the auto glow plug position and just time how long it takes. It's about 25 degrees out right now, which isn't horribly cold considering the last month and a half we've been right around 0. So I don't expect it to take the full 15 seconds, but it might. But it'll give you kind of a relationship to temperature on how long they run for. Alright, so sorry about the lighting here, the way the sun's coming in. It's not the greatest, but I'll turn the key on to auto, start the light. Light is on. Alright, so just over 17 seconds, so somewhere in the 15-second range there. And the tractor should just fire right up. And now with my tractor, when it's cold out, you can see that it upped the RPMs there to about 1200. It'll do that until it's warm, and it'll go back down to the 950 to 1000 RPM range. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes since I started this tractor, and for the first part of this video. It only ran for just a few seconds there, so it shouldn't have changed the temperature in the block at all, and the temperature outside hasn't changed. So I'm going to use the manual mode on the glow plugs and see if that makes a difference on how long they run for. It shouldn't. It should run about the same as before, but we'll give it a shot here. So I'm going to have to hit the starter here and on the timer and then go. So roughly about the same time, because there was a delay between me hitting the timer and then getting the glow plugs to come on. So we're in that 16 to 17 ballpark, which is close to the 15 seconds that they say they're supposed to run for, and that could vary just on the resistance and stuff in the lines. So and my timer and how it correlates with when I turn it on and off. So, but you're roughly in that 15-second range. And so manual versus auto, they're going to be the same time frames based on the water temperature of the engine. So I don't know why they would have given you both options, manual versus auto, but they did. And I personally just use the auto every time. I really don't know why you'd use the manual unless for some reason the auto feature went out, but I would think that if it went out, the manual would probably go out too. So I don't know. If you have any ideas on this, let me know. Questions and comments below. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.